And this is a picture that I found. I haven't seen it before, actually.
No,
this was, we see the same people from the beginning. This is the New York
Sort
guys,
of,
the New York daughters, and Freddie looks pretty
This was
altered.
in 1981. 1991.
The year he died.
Yeah. Because he invited them over because he was starting to say goodbye to everybody. He knew he didn't know how long he had, but he'd already started pushing people away because he wanted them to remember him happy and smiling and how he used to be. And he brought these guys over for a week just to spend time, just to say basically goodbye.
He obviously then told them what his illness was, actually.
Yeah.
When did you first hear about his...
I was told in May 1987, because in the 1986 tour, he was already feeling tired. He was feeling something wasn't right. But he put it down. It's like all of us. You will always put stuff to the back of your head. And he was thinking, it's because I'm doing these big stadium shows. It's a lot of work. I'm tired. But I think he knew in the back of his head there was the problem. He had a mark come up on his hand, a blue, like a bruise. But he says, it's a bruise. I'll ignore it. But over a week or two, it just got worse. So he went and had a biopsy done. And I think at that point, he knew. He just knew. The doctor tried to call him. And Freddie was anywhere except near a telephone. He would be out shopping, he would be in the bath, he would be recording, he would be doing anything, but he would not come to the telephone. And in the end, the doctor had to call Mary and get her to tell him he has to call me. And so that's when he found out. This was just after Easter. And then he was very good because he told all of us, but separately. And he made sure Terry had gone out shopping, and he sent Joe to look for something. And then he came down from his room down to the kitchen where I was. And he sat down. I could still see it. I was leaning against the cooking area. And he sat down near the little table, the dining table in the kitchen. And he said, look, I've got something to tell you. He said, you know I'm not very well. And I said, yeah. He said, and you know what it is? And I said, no, I don't know what it is. I have an idea, but I don't know. He says, I have AIDS. This is the last time we will actually talk about this because I have a life to live. Nobody knew. He didn't know. Doctors didn't know. Nobody knew if he had 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. All he knew was that he had a limited amount of time to do everything that he needed to do. And there was never any time of him thinking and blaming who gave me this. And there was never any of that. He never thought like that. He just had, this is what I said earlier on, that Freddie was music. Everything about Freddie was music. And that's what he did. From the time he knew his diagnosis through to the end, he did more work than he'd done in the years beforehand. He went to the studio every single moment that he had any sort of energy. That was what kept him going. They we were told in 1989 to be prepared that Freddie would not see Christmas. And when we told him that, he stopped drinking, he stopped smoking, everything. And he just then went on for another 2 years. He was, in those years, I saw probably the bravest, most courageous man I've ever met. With the way he dealt with the situation, the way he handled it, the way he accepted it. He knew, but you know, we all did back in those days, in '87, he was going to die. There was no other outcome. There was nothing that was going to change that. All I knew was that nothing I did was going to keep him alive. All I could do was try and make him comfortable for as long as I could. And so that's what we all did.
So you basically nursed him
Yeah.
to the very end. You became his
I
nurse.
mean, Joe and I basically did everything for him because he did not want nurses coming and going. The doctors would only come maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, but he did not want a nurse there at all because that would be noticed going in and out. So for the last year and a half, 2 years, he had a central line put in. Central line put in. And Joe and I were taught how to give him the infusions. He was having gancyclovir because the eyesight was beginning to go. So we were taught how to give him these 3 times a day over the course of an hour each time. We were, both of us, and we did it without even talking to each other. We were told the first thing you always have to do, put on gloves. Put on gloves, put on gloves. The gloves lasted maybe 2 or 3 days, and then we just couldn't put them on. We couldn't touch Freddie through a layer of rubber. This was our friend. There was just no way we're going to use that, so we just didn't use the gloves anymore. But we did have the most amazing compliment at the end, because the doctors turned around to Joe and myself and said, "We don't know how you've managed it, but he's had this in for nearly 2 years, and it's the same one that he started off with." For most people, they would last 3 months before they were totally infected. But we got him through all of this. We did everything except blood transfusions. That had to be done by a doctor, because you have to take blood pressure every now and then. But also in those days, 89, 90, they were experimenting with different drugs, erythropoietin and various other things. And Freddie said, "Well, use them on me. It won't cure me, but at least you might find out something that will help other people." And so we had to put sort of about, 20 milliliters into a syringe and put it in over the course of 2 minutes. All of that, and then you have to mark down what happens, and we did all of that. It just became natural.
You know what I was asking myself, I mean, you were pretty young there yourself, right? I mean, you were in your early 30s, mid-30s maybe, and so definitely not the age where you would be prepared to see your friend deteriorate in front of your eyes. And as you said, no matter what you do, there's nothing that could...
The thing is, though, if you see someone every day, you don't see them deteriorating. You don't see them changing. The first time I actually saw that Freddie did not look good was in the video days of our lives.
Yeah.
That was what hit me.
Mm.
And then I saw the difference. But until then, it was still Freddie.
But still, I mean, the experience of nursing your friend, and I'm not talking about the superstar Freddie Mercury there, so nursing your friend and staying with him till the very end, how has that changed you? And does it still affect you today, this experience?
Yeah. I started work for him when I was 24 and finished when I was 36.
Mm.
The thing is, I'm quite a few years older than that now. And the thing is, it's still, I'm actually using what I learned back then, because I was approached, I don't know, about 11 years ago. I live in the Czech Republic now. I am Czech. And this guy came to me and said, is there something that we could do to make school children aware of AIDS? He was 17 at the time. He says, in all my years at school, I've never heard anything about it. There's not anything in the news. There's not anything on television. Teachers don't talk about it. We don't know about it. Can't we do something? And he actually created this sort of seminar that we do. And we take it round schools. We just go from 13 years old and upwards. Because young people these days do a lot more than I used to do. And 13-year-olds know everything that they need to know, except the dangers that are out there. So we go round and basically we do an introduction video. Then I take them through the last 4 years of Freddie's life, of how it affected him, the disease, how he deteriorated, how he lost weight, how he was losing his vision, everything, right through to him dying. And then there's another video, and then there's time for questions. And I'm still amazed at some of the questions that these children ask. I mean, it shows that they've been listening to what I've been saying. And, well, both Milan and I, we just hope that if we've saved one person's life, we've done something. We've spoken to over 17,000 students so far over these last years. I mean, the last 2 years,
yeah,
of course not. But, and so, for me, Freddie is, and the thing is, you go to the school and these 13-year-olds know the name Freddie Mercury. And I think that's absolutely amazing. And the fact that he can still teach young people today about things that are still happening, even though he's been gone 30 years. The fact that he can still, through his life, tell people what to be careful of. You know, and I always say to them, you know, look, I'm not here to tell any one of you how to live your life. You live your life because it's your life. But just be aware of what is out there. And that's all I can say to anybody in the end. Because it is still around. And yes, if you get tested when you're HIV positive, you can go on the drugs that you have to take every day for the rest of your life. But what happens if you get tested and it's already gone too far? You know, what is it? Something is better, what is it? Is better than cure? Prevention.
Prevention.
Prevention is better than cure. And it's very, very true, because at the moment there is no cure as such. So prevention is the only way to go.
And actually many of your friends from back then are no longer with us already. It's not just
No.
Freddie who went, right? A
No.
lot of the people we saw in the pictures here tonight have passed
The
away.
thing is, though, Lee and Thor and myself, and of course Mary, but we've been lucky. I can only say it that way.
I was just going to ask, are there times when you say, oh, fuck, thank God,
I know I am the luckiest man alive, because I also know what I have done in my life. And some of the things I suppose I'm really not proud of, but I've done them, you know, what can I say? But I'm alive to talk about it. So I can only put it down to luck. I mean, more recent example, I was in Montreux 3 weeks ago. 2,500 people, fans were there. I must have had photographs with at least half of them.
Montreux, I think we just have to shortly explain. Montreux is where Queen had their studio back then, in the late 80s, early 90s, and there's the Freddie Mercury statue
Yeah.
standing there, the one that you know from the cover for the Made in Heaven album, that is there in Montreux. On the Lake
And
Geneva,
every year we do his birthday party in September. So I must have had photographs with half of them. Within a few days of everybody getting home, I got messages from people saying that so many of their friends had said that since they got back from Switzerland, they had COVID. And I immediately thought, well, hang on, I was photographs with so many, but nothing happened. I can only put it down to the fact that I have had 3 vaccinations and COVID, so maybe there's a little bit of resistance still inside me. But the fact that I got through that, and so, as I say, the fact that I've got through my life so far. So, I just have to be so lucky. That's all I can say.
This is actually one of the last pictures, photographs of Freddie in summer 1991, I think, right? In the garden of his house, in Garden Lodge in London.
Yeah.
And I would like to read you again a little bit of the book, which I found particularly not only interesting, but also super inspiring and moving at the same time. So this is basically what Freddie had to say when he was asked about AIDS and the AIDS pandemic and how he deals with it. Ich bin perfekt in Form und gesund, aber selbstverständlich mache ich mir Sorgen über meine Gesundheit. Macht das nicht jeder? Ich bete, dass ich niemals AIDS kriege. So viele Freunde haben es. Einige sind gestorben, andere haben nicht mehr viel Zeit. Ich habe Angst davor, der Nächste zu sein. Sofort nach dem Sex denke ich, wahrscheinlich war das jetzt der eine. Wahrscheinlich war das ist das Virus jetzt in meinem Körper. Dann springe ich unter die Dusche und versuche, mich sauber zu schrubben, obwohl ich genau weiß, dass es sinnlos ist. Ich war völlig am Boden zerstört, als ich von meinen Freunden erfuhr, die an AIDS gestorben sind. Es hat mir die Ernsthaftigkeit der Krankheit vor die Augen geführt. Auf die harte Tour. Wenn man jung ist, ist es sogar noch viel härter. Neulich habe ich erst darüber nachgedacht, wie viel Glück wir hatten, dass wir uns schon damals die Hörner abstoßen konnten. Aber die fangen ja gerade erst damit an. Die Jüngeren, die müssen jetzt damit klarkommen. Ich habe für Sex gelebt, aber inzwischen habe ich mich geändert. Ich gehe nicht mehr aus, habe mit den wilden Partynächten aufgehört, ich lebe beinahe wie eine Nonne. Das ist erstaunlich. Ich dachte immer, Sex sei unglaublich wichtig für mich, aber jetzt erkenne ich, dass ich mich in eine ganz andere Richtung entwickelt habe. Damals war ich extrem promiskuitiv, es gab Exzess in jederlei Hinsicht, aber inzwischen bin ich anders. Mit all dem habe ich abgeschlossen und ich vermisse dieses Leben auch nicht. Alles ist gut. Ihr seht,
Ich bin einer der Menschen, die von schwarz auf weiß wechseln können. Ich mag keine halben Sachen. Mir fällt es ziemlich leicht, komplett auf Dinge zu verzichten. Ich kann dir nichts aufhören, Alkohol zu trinken. AIDS hat mir so eine Wahnsinnsangst gemacht, dass ich aufgehört habe, Sex zu haben. Mittlerweile reicht mir der Kitzel. Ich stehe auf Kitzel. Das macht viel mehr Spaß. Was soll ich auch sonst machen? Ich habe mit dem Sex aufgehört und angefangen, Tulpen zu züchten. Ich halte die Message von Safer Sex für essentiell und äußerst wichtig. Jeder, der rumhurt, sollte einen AIDS-Test machen. Wir haben es mit einer sehr, sehr ernsten Sache zu tun. Und die Leute müssen Geduld haben, es werden schon wieder bessere Zeiten kommen. Die Sache mit dem Safer Sex ist zwar ziemlich erstrebenswert, aber man kann ja trotzdem noch Spaß haben. Man kann ja nicht erwarten, dass die Leute für immer auf Sex verzichten. Die Leute drehen durch, sie glauben, dass sie AIDS haben und dann erschießen sie sich oder irgendwas Schlimmes. Und dann stellt sich heraus, dass sie es am Ende doch gar nicht hatten. Die Leute sollten vorsichtig sein, aber nicht paranoid werden. Wir leben jetzt damit und es ist nun mal da, direkt vor unserer Haustür. Man wäre ein Trottel, wenn man behauptet, man hätte noch nie davon gehört. Man kann sich dem nicht entziehen. Aber wenn man ans Eingemachte gehen will, Freunde von mir sind an AIDS gestorben. Es ist verheerend. Wie oft soll man diese Leier noch vortragen? Ich bin nicht der Erlöser von dieser verfickten Sache. Ich mag diese Fernsehwerbung, wo sie sagen, dass vor AIDS jeder gleich ist. Geld spielt keine Rolle dabei. Es ist völlig unberührt davon, ob wer du bist oder was du machst. Es kriegt dich. Wann ich erwarte, den Löffel abzugeben? Noch nicht allzu bald. Wird meine Musik die Zeit überdauern? Das ist mir scheißegal. Ich bin dann nicht mehr da, um mir darüber Gedanken zu machen. In 20 Jahren, da bin ich tot, Schätzchen. Seid ihr bescheuert? Ich erwarte nicht, besonders alt zu werden, aber darüber hinaus ist es mir auch echt egal. Ich strebe es bestimmt nicht an, 70 zu werden. Das wäre so langweilig. Da bin ich längst vorher tot und beerdigt. Dann bin ich nicht mehr hier. Dann fange ich irgendwo anders ein neues Leben an und baue mir meine eigenen Granatäpfel an. Ich will niemandem zur Last fallen. Ich möchte das Gefühl haben, zu gehen, ohne jemandem zur Last gefallen zu sein. Und das meine ich gar nicht herablassend. Ich will das einfach nicht. Das ist die ehrliche Wahrheit. Ich würde liebend gern verlöschen, solange ich noch oben auf bin. Ich werde nicht wie Eva Perron sein. Ich will nicht in die Geschichte eingehen als so jemand, der sich ständig Gedanken gemacht hat, darauf hoffend, dass sie nach meinem Tod erkennen, dass ich etwas erschaffen oder erfunden habe. Das Leben ist zum Leben da. Auf diese ganzen Dinge gebe ich einen Scheiß. Inzwischen hatte ich lieber Spaß und will auch weiterhin noch Spaß haben. Ich will nicht morbide klingen, die 70 ist noch lange hin. Soweit es mich betrifft, habe ich ein erfülltes Leben gelebt und wenn ich morgen tot bin, ist es mir scheißegal. Ich habe gelebt. Ich habe wirklich alles gemacht. Wenn ich aber tot bin und mit all meinen Schätzen begraben werden will, so wie Tutanchamun, dann mache ich das. Wenn ich eine Pyramide in Kensington haben will und ich kann sie mir leisten, dann werde ich mir auch eine bauen. Wäre das nicht großartig? Ob ich in den Himmel komme? Nein, will ich auch gar nicht. Die Hölle ist viel besser. Schaut doch nur all die interessanten Leute an, die man da unten treffen wird. Wenn ich tot bin, möchte ich, dass man mich als einen Musiker von gewissem Wert und Substanz in Erinnerung behält. Ich habe keine Ahnung, wie man sich an mich erinnern wird. Darüber habe ich noch nie nachgedacht. Tot und begraben? Nein, darüber habe ich noch nicht nachgedacht. Ich denke nicht, mein Gott, werden Sie sich wohl an mich erinnern, wenn ich tot bin? Das müssen die entscheiden. Wenn ich tot bin, wen interessiert das schon? Mich nicht.
Yeah, when I'm dead, who cares? I don't.
The thing is, people ask me, what would Freddie say if he was actually to come and see, for example, the birthday party, when you have all these 2,500 people of all ages, from young, I mean literally parents with their children through to grandparents. I think he would be incredibly shocked. The fact that people still remember him. There's actually, if you actually think about it, Freddie wrote his will. And in his will, everything got split up, but after 50 years, everything is liquidated and given to charities. We're already over 30 years from that time. And I don't think in the next 20 years Freddie's going to become very much less popular. So what happens? He thought in 50 years, well, you know, I'm not going to be around, nobody's going to think, nobody's going to remember. But I think he would be incredibly proud if he knew, if he knew how many people were still interested in him, in what he's done.
I wanted to end on a lighter note, actually, but I think these are just the perfect words to finish, I guess.
But what lighter note? Come on.
The lighter notes. I would have a picture. Yeah, the Bohemian Rhapsody. You said it. I mean, this thing is something that kind of turned the story around a bit, right? Or,
well,
so,
the thing is,
the movie. We're talking about the movie here, right? And you played a very important role in this movie, haven't you?
Yeah. Is there anybody here who hasn't seen it?
Oh.
There's one person here. Look, it's an amazing film, but accept it as a Hollywood film. It is not a Freddie documentary. Very important role.
Yeah, what was your task? I mean, you were on set basically every day, right?
Yeah. In August 2017, I was told at the beginning of August by Brian Singer, I'm coming to Prague, I want to sit and talk to you about Freddie. Okay. So he arrived. I went to the hotel that he was at, he arranged a room for me there, everything. And we sat and we talked for 7 hours. And at the end of the 7 hours, he says, well, I don't know a fraction of what I want to know. Would you come to England for 3 or 4 days? You know, just to fill me in on the Real Freddie. I said, yeah, I mean, I can do 3 or 4 days. So on the 12th of August, I flew to London. And 3 or 4 days later, on December the 18th, I went home. I asked after 4 days, you know, nobody's told me about flight or anything. And I was sort of, well, don't you know, you're here, you're staying. Basically, I don't know if any of you are involved in filming or whatever, but on set, you've got the camera, the actors and things, and just at the back, there's a black tent. And inside this tent, there were 2 big monitors, and sometimes there was a third small one, depending on how many cameras were being used. In front of those is the director. To his left, behind him, is the script supervisor, who in the old days was continuity. And on the other side was me. So that they would do a scene, they would film it, and Brian would just turn around to me and say, well, is that how Freddie would have reacted? Is that what he would have, is that how he was? I said, look, it's this film. It works. He says, that's not what I asked. What would he have done? How would he have behaved? So, okay, maybe he would have been a bit more aggressive, he would have been a bit more happy, he would have been. Rami, come back, we're going to do it again. This time, can you be a little bit more, whatever I'd suggested. So, that was my input into the film. One thing I did learn is that the script is sacrosanct. The script cannot be deviated from by one word. And that's by the actor or the director or anybody. You cannot change the script. And the person who wrote the script was this amazing Hollywood scriptwriter who knew absolutely nothing about Freddie Mercury. So, for me, if there was just one more scene, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, of Freddie at home with the friends that you've seen in these photographs, sitting and laughing, it would have made the film, for me, much more real. I don't look at the film as the story. I see each scene, and in each scene I can see a tiny, tiny little grain of truth with lots of Hollywood embroidery around it. You have to remember, misery sells so much better than smiles and happiness in Hollywood films. So this had to focus on depressed Freddie, sad Freddie, and
he wasn't
really
like that.
wasn't like that. I mean, were there any pictures that you saw where there wasn't even a little bit of a smile in there somewhere? And that was the Freddie. The pictures that you picked out have actually been good. They've been right.
Thank you.
They've shown a lot more of the real Freddie. Even like of all of us sitting around or standing by Jones Beach and things. You know, that was the Freddie that I remember. I don't remember any of the Freddie from the film. But this was Freddie.
Happy and smiling, and that's how we should remember him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's how we are going to celebrate him tonight. Peter, thank you so much for taking your time and coming to Berlin and sharing these amazing stories with us here tonight. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.